So, I don't know about you, but I've had that incredibly painfully awkward moment where I realized that I was the toxic one. And we're going to talk about that today. If you have ever been there, can we talk about how excruciatingly cringe it is to find out that you're the problem? You're the villain in your own stormy? You're the villain in your own story? Ugh. And if you haven't, my hope is that this episode inspires you to take the bravest step, to stop pointing the finger and start calling yourself out. Self-awareness is truly where my healing journey began. Without it, I wouldn't be where I am today. I mean, some real started from the bottom, now we're here, you know? If I can go from this to this, you can too, and I'm going to teach you how. Self-awareness is where my healing journey truly began, and we're going to talk about it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Welcome to Too Delusional for the Groupchat podcast, where confidence takes the lead, chaos keeps it interesting, and while clarity, she's typically fashionably late. I'm Shelby McMaster, former ER nurse turned writer, podcaster, and your super delusional bestie. This is where we rewrite our self-worth stories. We dream bigger than what other people deem reasonable, and we take our main character energy all the way to the life we want. So the thing about self-awareness is that you don't see it coming. One minute you're living your life, struggling, probably not minding your own business. And then if you're anything like me, you're on your 555th mental breakdown of the year, and bam, there it is. Snuck up on me, no warnings. And since that happened, I haven't been able to turn back. I might have tried initially. I mean, because honestly, this work is, cringe, ow, painful. But I can promise you, if you can do the work and we can get you to become more self-aware, the payoff is worth anything, truly. I'm going to tell you about some moments where I was connecting the dots in real time. You know, I'm going to tell you about how I realized something that I did not want to admit. I wasn't just in the chaos, I was the chaos. I was the problem. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. I'm the common denominator. And honestly, whether I liked it or not, I was the problem more than I wasn't. Where do we start? Summer 2022, rock bottom, baby. Rock bottom, baby. My wife was at work and I was slipping into the couch. I was on the couch wishing it would just suck me in and eat me alive. Is that crazy? It sounds crazy. Anyway, that's what I wished at the time. I couldn't open the curtains. I couldn't imagine opening the curtains and letting the sunlight see me. My heartbeat pounded, chills swept all over my body. I was sweating and shaking. I felt like I was crawling out of my own skin. Xanax withdrawal, man. Oof. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But this isn't just about breaking the physical hold that a medication had on me. It was a medication prescribed by my doctor. I took the prescribed dose, but if I didn't take it, my body couldn't handle it. But this wasn't just about getting off medication. That being said, it was the beginning of my fight with addiction. And to be honest with you, at the time, I did not call myself an addict. I wasn't ready. That comes with time. But I did know that I could no longer be on this medication. And again, at the time, I couldn't have told you why. It was just a deep knowing inside me. my intuition, if you will. I knew that I had to get off this medication no matter what. And that is the start and the beginning of me becoming self-aware. So buckle up. It's a cringy, painful ride. I have family and friends that can attest to that. But I can tell you, doing the work is worth it. So this episode isn't about addiction. It's about the self-awareness that came from one decision. The moment that I knew I could no longer take that medication and everything that came with it. The raw, uncomfortable, completely uninvited self-awareness. That is exactly where we're going today. Without further ado, we're going to talk about what self-awareness is. By definition, self-awareness is the ability to consciously recognize and understand your own thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and patterns, and how they impact both yourself and others. Psychologists often describe it as stepping outside of yourself for a moment, watching what you're doing and why without reacting or slipping into denial. I think that self-awareness is the superpower of knowing yourself, your patterns, your triggers, your habits, so you can stop running on autopilot and finally start living. Self-awareness has two sides, internal self-awareness and external self-awareness. Internal self-awareness is knowing your values, emotions, triggers, strengths, weaknesses, and how you respond in different situations. External self-awareness is understanding how other people perceive you and how your actions affect them. Internal self-awareness keeps you anchored in who you are, while external self-awareness keeps you connected with the world around you. Without balance, you can either end up living for other people's perceptions of you, too much external, or living in a bubble where you're blind to your own impact, too much internal. Here's a part that stings. Self-awareness is like holding up a mirror and actually looking, even when what's staring back makes you cringe. It's the courage to admit, yeah, that one's on me. And let me tell you, I have more of those moments than we could share in probably the entirety of this podcast. But you know what? That's okay. But here's the thing. It's not always dramatic or obvious. It's not like a single moment that's like, aha, that's it forever. No, it's moments that arrive and it's that if you weren't listening, you would almost miss it. Once you become a self-aware, things will go off like sirens. You'll be like, oh, that was me. Oh no. Why'd I do that? And listen, that's not even getting into the accountability piece of that. That's for next episode. What I've done is I decided to break down self-awareness into micro and macro moments for you. I wanted to come up with something that would help you understand it a little bit deeper since self-awareness is a pretty challenging topic. Micro moments are the small, almost imperceptible flashes of awareness in your everyday life. The kind that happen in real time and give you a split second to make a different choice. Macro moments are the bigger, more undeniable realizations that shift the way you see yourself forever. Both matter, both change you. I want to give you examples of each because sometimes when you're stuck in your own patterns, you can't see them clearly. But when you hear someone else name them, you think, oh, I do that. And that moment of recognition, that's the crack in the door. And once it's there, even just a sliver, even as, you're just peeking through the door, barely peeking, you can't go back to pretending you didn't see it. Here is a little list of micro moments of self-awareness to get you thinking. Noticing your tone get sharp halfway through a sentence. Realizing you're scrolling to avoid an uncomfortable feeling. pausing before sending a reactive text, recognizing your shoulders are tense for what feels like no reason, admitting you're jealous before you start judging, and noticing you're defensive before anyone accuses you of anything. Some macro moments are realizing you've been the common denominator in multiple conflicts, seeing your own toxic pattern in someone else's behavior, recognizing you've been playing the victim in your own life, understanding your coping mechanism is now causing harm, realizing a dream that you've been chasing isn't actually yours. These moments, they don't come with flashing lights or dramatic soundtrack. If you're me, I do try to always have kind of a dramatic soundtrack on deck, but hey, that's not everybody. They sneak up on you in the middle of everyday life. In an email, a passing comment, or even a text. Somewhere between the words you read and the story you tell yourself about them, something shifts. And that's exactly what happened to me one afternoon in the middle of a text conversation with my sister. I'm going to tell you about this. And it is incredibly cringe. And it was not my best self. But you know what? It was a moment that pushed me. Well, you'll see. Here we go. So I was texting my sister, tossing out an idea for something that historically had a way of ending in sort of chaos for us. It was never anybody's fault, but it just never ended well. This time I thought maybe it could be different. I came up with a different plan and I sent it to her. And I said, maybe this time we'll avoid the same old mess that we've kind of ended up with in a few different times. And my sister, she replied empathetically, respectful, but firm. And she said, after talking about this with my husband, we've decided that it's not something we're comfortable with anymore. And for the good of our well-being, we won't be participating with this moving forward. Simple, clear, a boundary. The problem is, at the time, I didn't hear boundary. What I heard was, they don't care about me. I'm being abandoned. What matters to me doesn't matter to them. Instead of saying, hey, that hurts me, but I respect your decision. No. Unhealed Shelby took a spin and ow, I was a total reactive. Psh. Cruel words, defensive-ness, and just completely unfiltered anger. Oh God, Brandy, I'm so sorry. Johnny, I'm so sorry. Mid-podcast. But all of it hit harder too because I didn't have the Xanax to numb me out anymore. So I'm out here really feeling my feelings. Or I should say, was I feeling my feelings? No. Because my feeling was actually hurt, sadness. But that was such an uncomfortable feeling for me at the time that all I allowed myself to feel was anger and rage. At the time, I didn't have the tools to name that. All I had was an explosive, inappropriate reaction that nobody deserves. Somewhere in the next month, in the deafening radio silence after my last absolutely unhinged text to my sister, I thought, if my unwavering, compassionate, ridiculously patient baby sister chose to cut off what I can now call my toxicity, while simultaneously breaking her own heart, does it make sense for me to keep playing the victim here? For real. If my baby sister and my big-hearted, generous, supportive brother-in-law, the most selfless people I know, People that have shown up for me and my life time and time again. But like literally, one time, I'm having a mental breakdown. It's a beautiful Sunday in the fall. I give my sister a call. They're in the middle of a pumpkin field. They leave the pumpkins in the middle of the field that they picked to rush off and get to me as soon as possible. If those people needed to distance themselves from me to protect their own well-being, well, maybe it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. I was a common denominator in that scenario. So that was it. At the time, it felt just like an overblown reaction that I was going to, maybe in a couple days be like, oh, I'm sorry for that. My sister put that boundary in place. And to be honest, that was, if that did not happen, that conversation in general, I count it as one of the biggest turning points of my life. So that was my moment. I didn't see it coming, and I definitely didn't want to see it coming. But when it was right in front of me, I had to look at it. It forced me to look at myself in a way that I'd been avoiding for years. I've been avoiding looking at that pain, that hurt, that sadness, because to me, that was the most uncomfortable feeling of all. Anger, rage, even jealousy. All of those feelings felt easier at the time than actually feeling my sadness and my hurt and my pain. So, this is just about my wake-up call. I want us to take a second. Take a deep breath with me. Drop your shoulders. Oh, look at me. Unclench your jaw. All right. Now I want you to be honest with yourself. When was the last time that you hurt someone? And not because you're a bad person, but because you didn't have the tools to deal with it, to deal with what you were feeling. When was the last time you let that heat rise up in your chest? That sting in your pride, and you let the reaction take the wheel? Those moments matter. They're not just slip-ups or oops or my bad moments. Those are mirrors. And if you're brave enough to look, really look, they can help change you. So, this is one of my favorite parts of the podcast. This is the Higher Self Hot Take segment. A Higher Self Hot Take is where I channel the version of me who's already healed, lived the lessons, and stopped putting up with her own BS, aka my higher self. She's not here to sugarcoat. She's here to give you the truth that you already know deep down so that you can stop running from it and start acting on it. So here it is. Your higher self will always call you out before she cheers you on. She knows hype feels good, but honesty will save your life. She has zero patience for, but that's just who I am, speeches. Zero. She's watching you pour your energy into drama and distractions and situations you've already outgrown, and she's over it. She's the friend who shows up with an iced coffee, sits across from you and says, babe, we are not doing this again. You've seen this pattern, you've named it, and you've even posted the quote about it on Instagram. So now, do something about it. Because your higher self knows this. Awareness without action is just you sitting in the same mess and calling it a personality. She knows that the life you want requires the version of you that can face herself. And she's going to drag it out of you if she has to. Because here's the thing. Your higher self doesn't want you to just see your patterns. She wants you to work with them. Because again, self-awareness without action is just self-observation. And it's like watching the same bad rerun every single day. Bore, tired, exhausting, ew, no. We want more. We want joy. We want abundance. We want to live a life that we feel free in. How do you actually work with your awareness? I like to think of it as a self-awareness loop. Awareness, take a pause, reflect, take action, and then repeat. You notice the moment, you pause long enough to not just react. You reflect on what's going on underneath the surface. And then you take action that aligns with who you want to be, not who you've been. And then you do it again tomorrow and the day after that. The more you run this loop, the more your reactions will shift. And when your reactions shift, your patterns will shift. And when your patterns shift, so do your habits. And when your habits shift, so does your entire life. Self-awareness isn't about calling yourself the villain just to wallow in the guilt. Nope. And I can tell you that because I tried. It's about owning your role so that you can actually write a different ending. You can't change what you aren't aware of. One of my favorite things to say, still to this day, but especially at the beginning of my healing journey, has been, you don't know what you don't know. And you were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time. But now we know more. So we can make different choices. You can't change what you aren't aware of. You can't change what you see in the mirror unless you're willing to look at it first. It's not comfortable. It's not glamorous. It's not a lip gloss moment. No. Self-awareness is like a personal roast you didn't ask for, honestly. I don't know if you've listened to the song Antihero by Taylor Swift. But just at the time I was starting to become aware, that song came out. And I realized that I was the problem. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me. It is. It was. And you know what? You're not alone in being the problem. The Antihero Awakening is an acute montage with inspirational music in the back. No, it's the scene where you're sitting alone, staring at your reflection, realizing that you were the common denominator in so many of your own problems. Realizing you were the common denominator in your own chaos. But here's the thing, it's also the starting line for every bit of growth you've been craving. It's step 1 in reclaiming the main character role in your own life. Here's your challenge for the week. I want you to catch one micro moment of self-awareness. Small in-the-moment pattern like a tone, some defensiveness, avoidance, and just pause and recognize it. Additionally, I want you to catch one macro moment, a bigger realization about a pattern or truth you've been avoiding. Write it down without judgment. The goal isn't to fix it all at once. It's to stop pretending that you don't see it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's where change is going to begin. And if you do this, I promise you'll start seeing shifts. Not overnight and not perfectly, but enough to realize that you're not the same person who walked into this week. And that is where we will leave it today. If you take nothing else from this episode, let it be this. Self-awareness is the moment you stop running from yourself and you start meeting yourself where you are. That's where transformation begins. But this podcast is my dream, and I will never take it lightly that you choose to spend this time with me. I don't want to feel like just another voice in your ear. I want this to feel like a conversation between two friends who get it. And if this talk has helped just one person today, that's all I could ever want. If you're sitting there with questions or you want to talk through something you're going through, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here. You can find me at Too Delusional for the group chat on both YouTube and Instagram. I am also at With Love Shelby with an IE on Instagram. If you would like to reach out to me there. My DMs are open, and yes, I do read them. If you are listening on Spotify or YouTube and you feel like leaving me a 5-star review, I would love that. If not, no worries. Just keep quietly to yourself. But this isn't just my space, it's ours. It's a place where you can come exactly as you are without shrinking yourself or pretending that you don't feel what you feel. Because if you know me, one thing's for sure, I'm going to feel my feelings. If you can take one last thing from me today, let it be this. You are not alone. Even on the days when you are the anti-hero of your story, like I've been in mine so many times, even on the days the mirror shows you a version of yourself that you do not like, you are not the only one navigating this, and you are not alone. So please, please, please keep going, keep noticing, and keep showing up for yourself, even when it gets uncomfortable, especially when it gets uncomfortable. Until next time, take care, and I'll meet you in the next episode. Bye.